Thank you so much. Beautifully done, as always. All right, so I would like to officially welcome you to December and the month of the holiday season. We want to also remember it is not just Christmas, but it's Hanukkah for our Jewish brothers and sisters, and also Kwanzaa for those from a different culture. And there's many celebrations that all of us have. So officially today, the first Sunday of December, I welcome you to the Christmas or holiday season. And so wherever you are on the continuum, I brought this just to show you. Isn't this a nice continuum? So on the continuum, there are people here, sitting here today. There are people in your family. There are people that are your neighbors who are somewhere on the continuum between amazing joy, celebration, outrageous happiness. My mother was one of those. She not only decorated her apartment, she decorated herself. And I kind of take after her a little bit. So over here on this part of the continuum, there is this outrageous joy. And then everything in between. And on this part of the continuum, for many people, and I also had a family member, my son, who was depressed. And there are people who find it very difficult in this particular season. Depressed, sad, not joyous. So wherever you are on this continuum, it is my prayer and my hope that you will be nurtured and loved through the message that I share today and through the entire month. Nourished by the experience of being here with us at the Center for Spiritual Living. And in the month of December, we're really here, as Reverend Pat so beautifully said, to celebrate cosmic consciousness. And the reason I love that word is because it is so huge. Like I can say the Christ consciousness, but then what about Buddha? What about Buddha consciousness? Or what about the other great teachers of our time? So I like to include all of that and call it cosmic consciousness. Cosmic consciousness. And I found a reading I'm going to share with you right now by Stephen Mitchell. And because what we teach in Science of Mind, it wasn't just about the man called Jesus, but it was more about the message and the love that he brought to our planet through his life. And this is this is the Gospel according to Jesus, written by Stephen Mitchell. This is what he said. He said, "We cannot begin to see who Jesus the man was until we remove the layers of interpretation which the centuries have imposed between us and him, and which obscure his true face, like coat after coat of lacquer upon the vibrant colors of a masterpiece. The portrait of Jesus that emerges from the authentic passages in the Gospels is of a man who had emptied himself. He had emptied himself of the mental trappings and the spiritual baggage that separated him from the true life of spirit." Maybe some of us have done that. Anyone have any baggage? None of it? Oh, we're so good. You checked it at the door.
Yeah.
Left it on the airplane? Okay.
Yeah.
They charge extra.
And they charge extra. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. Ends up in a different place. My baggage went somewhere else, and I'm so grateful. So he goes on to say, Stephen Mitchell, that this great teacher, this master teacher, had such trust in the divine, such trust in God, and it was natural to him as breathing. Can you imagine how it would feel to be so clear on who you are that it's more natural even than breathing? And he also said, in his very language, he reflected God's deep love for everything that is earthly, for the sick, for the he called it morally admirable, for the weeds as well as the flowers, for the lions as well as the lambs. And he taught that God's love, this amazing love of the divine, has no preconditions. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to try really hard to find it. We need to do nothing first in order to recognize. It's simply a realization that right where we are, this amazing love that created the entire cosmos, this cosmic Christ consciousness, is right where we are. It's right in our heart. It's right here, right now. And it's effortless. It's not, we don't have to try. And we don't have to start looking. Where is it? It's like the fish in the water saying, where's the water? Here it is swimming. Where's the water? It's right here, right now. So I love that, those words of Stephen Mitchell. Love those. And so this Christ consciousness, this whole idea is what we are embodying this month. And today I'll be sharing with you a very simple way to remember that, to live that, to be that, to express that, especially during this very busy time. How many of you get really busy during the holidays? Anyone here get like overly busy and someone's rolling their eyes? It's like, oh my goodness, yep, get very, very busy. So I'm going to share a story with you right now that really embodies this whole idea of us literally recognizing within ourselves this cosmic Christ, this Christ consciousness. And I looked it up. I was trying to find out if it was actually a factual story. And you can go on a place called Snoops. And it says that it is not a story. So we're going to, not a true story. So we're going to use it as a parable. I love the parables because they give you something interesting. So here's the story. It is told that a seminary professor was vacationing with his wife in Tennessee. And one morning they were eating breakfast at a little restaurant, hoping to enjoy a quiet family time, just the two of them, kind of like a second honeymoon, right? And while they were waiting for their food, they noticed a distinguished looking, white-haired, white-bearded man going from table to table, and it was not Santa Claus. So they noticed this man, and the professor leaned over to his wife and he whispered, he said, I hope he does not come here. I hope he doesn't come here. Because they wanted a quiet breakfast. But we all know in metaphysics, what is it? When you say what you don't want, you get it, right? Whenever you say, I don't want this, and 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 I don't want this, you have set up yourself to receive what you don't want. So you always want to focus on what you do want. So he's saying, I hope he doesn't come over here. So guess what happened? The white-haired, white-bearded man went over there. And so they're seated trying to have their breakfast, and here the man comes over. So he says, and this bearded man says, where are you all from? Where are you all from? He has kind of an accent. They said, we're from Oklahoma. And he said, great to have you in Tennessee. We're so happy to have you in Tennessee. What do you do for a living? And so the professor said, well, I teach preachers how to preach. I teach at a seminary. So he said, oh, you teach preachers how to preach, do you? Well, I have a story for you. And all of a sudden, he pulls up a chair and he sits down at their table as they're trying to eat breakfast. Now, the food has come and it's getting cold, and they're trying to listen to this man with the white beard and the white hair. So here's what he says. The man started. He said, see that mountain over there? And he pointed outside. Not far from the base of that mountain, there was a boy born to an unwed mother. And he had a hard time growing up because every place he went, they would say to the young boy, who is your daddy? Who is your daddy? Who is your daddy? Well, whenever he was at school, they would say, who is your daddy? His teacher said it. Everywhere he went, even the clerks, who is your daddy? To this young boy. When he was about 12 years old, a new preacher came to the church. The little boy would always come in late because he didn't want the new preacher to say, who's your daddy? And just about that time, the new preacher gave a short sermon, and the boy got caught in the crowd. And sure enough, he's trying to get out without being noticed, this 12-year-old boy. And the new preacher puts his hand on his shoulder, and he says, son, he said, who's your daddy? But he could tell that something wasn't his intuition told him that something else was going on. So he said, wait a minute, I recognize you. There's a family resemblance. You, he said, are a child of God. I recognize you. And you have a great inheritance, and you have a great life. And I want you to go out and find that life, create that life for yourself. That's what the preacher said. So the boy was so stunned that he began to walk out of the church a changed person. He literally changed his whole life. And from then on, when someone said to him, "Who is your daddy?" he would say, "I am a child of God. I am a child of God." And that is true for every one of us in this room. We, everyone, made in the image and likeness of our divinity, of the power that creates worlds. Imagine that, the power that created the entire cosmos. That power is breathing you. That power is looking through your eyes. It is your hands. You are that cosmic Christ consciousness. That's the whole message of love that Jesus the man brought to us. And so, going back to the story now, the bearded man finally got up and he walked away so they could eat their cold breakfast. And as they were eating it, they called the waitress over and they said, "Who was that?" And the waitress said that she had overheard the story. That man that was talking to you with the white beard was that little boy. And he is the former governor of Tennessee. And he's made a huge life for himself. And he wanted to share that story. So the preacher, the teacher, the professor said, "That is a great story, and I'm going to take it back and teach my ministers about that story." So I thought that was a really nice one. So I love the words of Stephen Mitchell when he said that God's love, the love of the divine, the Christ consciousness embraces all people. And that means if you look out in our world right now, you are going to see lots of things going on, especially in the U.S. Lots of gun shootings, lots of things happening. Every single person is part and one with the Christ. And sometimes it's hard for us when we look at these things to really realize that. If we all realize that. Every morning I send blessings out to every single being on the planet and beyond, irregardless of the circumstances. And whoever they think they might be, I know who they are. They are the Christ cosmic consciousness. So when we are ready and willing to realize that in our own being, in our own heart, in our own soul, then literally something inside of us begins to shift. Something inside of us begins to express love in a more powerful way, in a more real way, to have more compassion. Yesterday I was at Cooper's and I was buying, I had this, you walk in the store and I saw broccoli. And then all I saw were visions of broccoli cheddar cheese soup. Doesn't that sound good? And it turned out really good, I must say myself. I admit it came out really good. So, and I forgot something. To officially start today's Christmas season, I have for you, I just got this. I wanted to light the tree. You know how you light the tree? Isn't that great? See, I almost forgot to light the tree. So I'm lighting the tree right here. So I go in there, and when I was coming out, there was a man who was sitting there, and he had was holding his leg, and he had a backpack, and he had a sign that said, anything is good. I'll take anything and everything, So I'm looking at my broccoli. I'm thinking probably not a good thing to give him. So I checked with guidance. I went and put my groceries away, and I checked with guidance, like I always do. And guidance told me a certain amount of money to give it to him. So I went back and I handed it to him, and I said, "Merry Christmas." And he just looked shocked. He said, "Well, thank you so much, And then I noticed as soon as I did that, other people started doing it. And pretty soon this guy that's just sitting there homeless was expressing and experiencing great abundance. And it just takes one of us, that's all, one of us to make a difference, to create this ripple effect of knowing the Christ consciousness. So how many of you have heard of James Dillett Freeman? He has a poem called "I Am There." I'm going to share this with you at the very end. You may not have heard it. How many of you have had foundations? Foundations class, okay. Because that poem was actually in our foundations class, but it's so powerful and so clearly speaks to this idea of Christ consciousness. I wanted to share that. So I have another story for you, and this is actually also how to embody this Christ. What happened to Zacharias? How many of you heard of Zacharias? Nobody. One of you. Okay, so here's the story of Zacharias, and I love stories because when you leave here, you may not remember anything I said. You might remember what I wore. They actually did a study, and they found out that people remember things that you wore, but they won't remember what you said. Isn't that funny? Remember what kind of shoes you had on. So, but stories stick with people. Stories people remember. So here's another story that really embodies this whole idea of cosmic consciousness. And it has to do with Zacharias. So Zacharias was a material-centered person. Do you know anyone in your life that is, I know someone I can think of right now. They're going to retire in a year, and this person and his wife are collecting what I call toys. They got the biggest, hugest, and this is great. There's nothing wrong with toys, right? The biggest, hugest RV that you could possibly imagine. It's a fifth wheel. It's so big it would take a Mack truck. It's like, I don't know how they're going to go down the freeway, but they're collecting toys. And I asked him, I said, are you going to retire, you and your wife? And he said, no, I want to work another year so I can have more toys. Let's have more toys. So he's really into a lot of things, right? So Zacharias was a material-centered person, obscured from seeing the truth, because he was so into that kind of thing. He was a tax collector. That kind of explains it. He was a tax collector and perhaps, just perhaps, took advantage of people and for his own gain. But he was ready for a change. Life wasn't working for him. I wonder why. Life wasn't working for him, and he wanted something different in his life. He wanted to wake up. He felt that there was something stirring inside him, something that was calling him into his next greatest, grandest version of himself. So, and he heard about this dude named Jesus. This man named Jesus that was walking around, and if he went to see him, they said it would change his life. So he decided, I'm going to go. I know I need a change. So he went to a town where he knew that Jesus was visiting. But the problem with Zacharias, and he was in the middle of this big crowd, is that he was very, very short. So he couldn't see Jesus. He couldn't see him. So he had this idea, I'm going to climb a tree. So he found a sycamore tree. How many of you know what a sycamore tree is? It can be pretty tall. He climbed up this tree, and he's in the tree looking like this, trying to find and see Jesus. And when Jesus was walking through the crowd, and he was walking under the tree, he felt something. So he looked up, and he saw Zacharias sitting up there. And he said, Zacharias, come down from the tree. Come down from that tree. And so, Zacharias came down from the tree. And he had an actual conversation with the man, Jesus. And this is what he said. Jesus said to him, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will open up, I will come in and sup. And I'm assuming that's sup with him. No matter where you are, and this is not the words of Jesus, those were the words of Jesus. What I believe the interpretation is that no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, no matter what path you have chosen, that you are always being invited, you are always called, it's always and forever present to wake up to this Christ, this cosmic Christ that lives and moves and has its being as you. To put on the glasses of truth. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says this so beautifully, and it was part of our reading. It was impossible for Jesus not to have become the Christ. As the human gave way to the divine, the man gave way to God, and the flesh gave way to spirit, and the will of division gave way to the will of oneness. Jesus, the man, became a living embodiment of the divine. And that's our goal for this month, to really live that embodiment. And here's how we do it. When you are venturing out this month, how many of you are going to go Christmas shopping? Anyone have planning on that? Some of you? Have you done it already? Have you done some of it? Okay, so when you're out and about, to take a moment before you get out of your vehicle to remember that you are that which is the cosmic Christ, that you are that Christ. Because what this world needs is more Christ, more Buddhas. To remember that. And when you see the lights on houses on Christmas trees here and here, when you see those lights, don't just look at them and say, isn't that a nice tree? When I was at a gathering last night, I was up at the Coast Conference Center at a gathering. There must have been 1,000 people. Have you ever had dinner with 1,000 people? That's a lot of people. And it was great. It was a work-related, a friend's work that I was invited to. and all the trees were lit up. It was beautiful. So not just to say, wow, what a nice tree, or what a nice tree, but to really be conscious and look at them and marvel as you look at this tree, to marvel how beautiful it is, and know that this living tree, or this almost living tree, represents the light within you, the Christ consciousness, the cosmic Christ in you. When you fill your house with Christmas candles, remember the light that is within you. Remember that when you share joy, and you show up as joy, not depression, but as joy, that you are, it's literally contagious, that the more joy that you express, the more that is brought into the world. And as you do your holiday shopping, know that it's not the dollar value of what you're spending, but instead, it's a gift, it is a physical representation of your light, of the light that is the Christ in you. And I particularly like this last idea, is when you go to holiday parties, like I did last night, a holiday party, and dancing, and family gatherings, enjoy the wonderful food, of course, in moderation. But use your holiday feasts to symbolize the feast of pure substance, the feast of the Christ consciousness, of the cosmic consciousness, of the faith and the knowingness that there is a divine purpose for your life, which is, I believe, which is love. And that your job is here to express that love in whatever form, in whatever work, in whatever thing that you do. Charles Fillmore, who started the Unity Center, said this quote. He said, "The feast of pure substance of spirit is ever accessible to every one of us. Before you can partake fully of the substance of spirit, there must be a willingness to turn your attention to the ideas of spirit," he said, "to the exclusion of all outer attractions. Having turned our attention to the invisible substance here in our own heart, we move upon it with our thoughts. And whatever we think about, we all know this in Science of Mind, what we think about comes about. What we think about comes about. What think about comes about." So you want to pick the thoughts that you want to experience. So to use, I invite you, beginning today, if you haven't already started, and as you do your shopping, as you go to your parties, as you see the lights, as you see the tree, as you decorate a tree, as you buy a tree, to really remember the meaning behind that, of the cosmic consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, that right here, right where we are, is that love that is just calling us to open a way for it to come out in whatever form that is this season. We have many opportunities here. We have socks that we're collecting that we're going to be gifting to the hospital. We also have teddy bears. We also have a way that we're collecting food and other, not food, but items for pets from the SPCA. So, and we have, this is almost full. I was really surprised. Last week it was empty, and guess what? Today it's almost full. And those of you who brought something, will give you a chance to do that. So I'm going to close today with a couple of things, and we're going to have the wings played, but I want us to claim the truth of our being, to say, I am cosmic consciousness. So I'm going to say it, and I want you to repeat it back to me. And I want you to put your hand, if you wish, put your hand on your heart, because we are really claiming the truth of our being. And it's just a matter of waking up to know it's already there. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to try. It's already there. It is who we are. So let me say it. I am cosmic consciousness. Repeat that. I am cosmic consciousness. I am the Christ made visible.
I am Christ made visible.
I am Buddha nature.
I am Buddha nature.
I am here to love.
I am here to love.
I am here to express
I am here to
the
express
next greatest and grandest version
the next greatest, grandest version
of the divine in me.
In me.
I am Christ consciousness.
I am Christ consciousness.
I am cosmic awareness.
I am cosmic awareness.
I am an extension of the divine.
I am an extension of the divine.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so we are.
And so we are.
And so I am.
And so I am.
All right. And with your eyes closed, I'm going to share this very last piece as we play the wings. This is a poem that really sums this all up for us, claiming our Christ consciousness, claiming our cosmic awareness. So as you hear the wings that are being played now, I want you to imagine that the divine, that this cosmic consciousness, this Christ presence, this Buddha nature, is speaking directly to you, is talking to you. It's written by James Dillard Freeman, called I Am Here. So the Christ is talking to you. Do you need me? I am here. You cannot see me, yet I am the light that you see by. You may not hear me, and yet I speak through your voice. You may not feel me, yet I am the power at work in your life, in your hands. I am at work through you, even though you may not understand my ways. I am at work through you, though you may not understand my works. I am not strange. I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me. Yet I am here, and yet I hear, and yet I answer. Even when you need me, I am here. Even if you deny me, I am here. Even when you feel most alone, I am here. Even in your fears, I am here. Even in your pain, I am here. I am here when you pray, and I am here when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. And only in your mind can you feel separate from me. And only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. And yet only in your mind and your heart can you know me and experience me. So empty your heart of empty fears, of all fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am here. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all through you. And I am in all. And though you may not see the good, good is here, for I am here. I am here because I have to be, because I am that which I am. And only in me, cosmic consciousness, does the world have meaning. And only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. For I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. For I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your presence. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. And though you fail to find me, I do not ever fail you. Through your faith in me is unsure. My faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am here. Beloved, I am you. I am you. I am you. Cosmic Christ consciousness. And so it is. We have a song. The Secret of Christmas.
It's not the glow you feel when snow appears. It's not the Christmas card you've sent for years.